Hello and welcome to our life. Step 3, obviously. Today we are doing boating and driving, not essentially in that order. We'll be doing drive first because it takes a little longer. Then again, I think they both take around the same length of time. Let's get into this. Like a lazy cat, you stretched your arms above your head and yawned, blinking your eyes sleepily. The day was warm and pleasant, and you were lounging on the couch in the living room, finding it too difficult to do much in that moment. Your moms and Liz had gone out shopping, looking for some new items for your sister to take back and decorate her college dorm with. They had asked you if you wanted to go with them, but you declined. For you, today was all about relaxation. Kyra dropped by to spend some time with you, content to join in with doing nothing. The two of you had been chatting idly as you lazed around, talking about the other things you had planned for the summer. You were stretched out across him as he sat on the couch. You had your feet propped up on one of the armrests and used Cove as a comfy cushion beneath your head, thoroughly settled in. The day dragged on, and you found yourself yawning more and more often between conversations. You had almost dozed off completely when suddenly a buzz rang out, disturbing the silence. Your phone was on its charger in the kitchen, so it couldn't have been that. Kirk pulled his own phone out of his back pocket and checked the screen. His movement had jostled you, so you tried to readjust your position to get it right again. It's my mom! After leaning forward and setting the phone on the coffee table in front of him, Kirk hit the speaker button. Hey! What's up? Callie is here too.
Hi.
Hi, Cove! Hello, Callie. Hey, Mom 3! You knew your forwardness was making Cove regret putting it on speaker, but you felt alright with that. Cove, baby! I wanted to ask you if you had a plan for all your junk. Cove made a small, outraged grumble, giving you a sidelong glance. It's not junk, it's important. Though you couldn't see it, you could tell by the sound of her voice that Kyra was smiling. But is that a yes or no about the plan? Cove closed his eyes for a moment, his nose wrinkled in thought. Can you let me know how busy you are this week? I'll check my schedule. Cool. He looked over at you, his mouth pulled into a tight smile. I'm gonna take the phone off speaker so me and my mom can go over this. It'll be quick. Cove carefully moved you off him and took the phone from the table before pushing himself to his feet. He hit the speaker button again to turn it off, and continued his conversation with his mom as he headed towards the door. The door clicked behind him as he exited the house, and you sank back into the cushions, idly deciding what to do next. After electing to grab your own phone from its charger, you resumed your position on the couch, tapping away at the screen. Your mind drifted away from the thoughts of Cove and his phone call with many ways your device could distract you. It was an effective way to kill the time, and you managed to do various little things when the door opened again and Cove returned.
Hey.
I hope you managed without me. You watched as Cove strolled over to where you were still sitting. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Just... He sighed dramatically, and let his forehead fall against the couch back. I know I just came back from visiting my mom, but... Well, last time I flew there, and every time I just fly there and back. And so, there's a lot of stuff I've left over there, because I can't take them all with me on the plane. Now that I'm not going to be visiting her like I used to, I'll have to go get it at some point. He looked at you, his forehead creasing as he thought the situation through. London's pretty big, so it's not really practical to have it shipped. I can drive over and pick it up. When will you go? That's what my mom wanted to know. She thought it would be best to do it soon before things got even busier. He paused, and let out a soft sigh, his shoulders dropping, as if he didn't want to be the one to tell you that. I think that's probably the idea that makes the most sense, too. It'd be a good thing to get over and done with. I'll be setting out as soon as I can. Oh. Another trip already planned, then? He sighed and dropped his head again. You could tell that he wasn't any happier about having to go too. You could tell he wasn't any happier about having to go than you were about seeing him leave. Are you just trying to get away from me? Never. You cracked a smile, but deep down you were sad that he had to leave again so soon. Looking up, you met his bright aquamarine eyes, finding a sad smile tugging on his lips. Oh! Suddenly, his eyebrows jumped, and his eyes lit up like a lamp. You could come with me! What? You should come! My visits to my mom are usually special, so she and I can spend time together. But this time it's not like that. It's an errand! My plan is to drive out one morning, spend the night, and then we can pack up the car the next morning and turn right back round. It'll only take 2 days for the whole thing. You thought to yourself for a moment, amused by Ko's excitement. Are you sure it would be okay if I go?
I mean...
Yeah, why not? I could probably use the company. It's a pretty long drive for one person. Plus, you'd have the chance to see my mom in person. I know she'd be happy to see you again. You shrugged casually, smiling as you officially let Ko talk you into it. That's still it! A road trip with the two of us would be fun. I'll have to let my moms know. But as long as we've got nothing else important on the days we pick, then there's no reason I wouldn't be able to go. Ko's face brightened, and you were sure the prospect of having to travel... Ko's face brightened, and you were sure the prospect of having a travel buddy made the task easier. Made the task seem less tiresome. I'll call my mom back and tell her. We can pick a time right now. You spent some time together going over your schedules and making plans for when you could take the trip. You needed to fit it around both of your work schedules, which took a bit of doing, but it came together in the end. Luckily, it was only a 2-day trip, so finding a couple of free days in a row wasn't impossible. As long as the dates were... It wasn't long before the dates were fully set, and all the plans were made. You were excited about the trip. A short trip sounded like the perfect way to spend some time. You could listen to music, eat snacks, and enjoy the open road. No matter what you thought about things, the morning when you were due to leave arrived. It was cooler than usual, the sun barely peeking over the tops of the houses. You stood outside your house on the footpath near the road, waiting for Ko. You yawned loudly, covering your mouth with the back of your hand. Mornings were always a struggle. With your travel bag clutched in one hand, you watched as Ko finished packing up his car. He had all sorts organized. Water bottles, snacks, and who knows what else. Ko insisted he had everything under control and didn't need help. At least you could rest easy knowing that it was taken care of. As you waited, you glanced over at Ko's car. You knew it well. It used to belong to Mr. Holden, and when Ko learned to drive, it was passed to him. His dad had taken the opportunity to get a newer one. It was pretty old at this point, but it served both of them well so far. You just hoped it had enough life in it to survive the trip as long as the one you're embarking on. The sound of the door closing made you jump. You snapped back into focus and saw Ko walking towards you. He dusted his hands off on his pants and tilted his head towards the car. That's it. Ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready. He smiled and stepped aside, giving you space to situate your own bag where you wanted it. Once everything was safely inside, he glanced back at you.
All right.
We should get started. It's gonna be a ways to go. You hugged him. Ah! He seemed surprised, but chuckled and returned the gesture. It couldn't last for long, though. Time was of the essence. The two of you climbed into the car, buckled up, Ko in the driver's seat, and you sat shotgun. His eyes moved to you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming on this trip with me. God, it's no problem. After checking the mirrors and starting the engine, you pulled out of the driveway and the trip began. With a small sigh, you got cozy in your seat and watched the familiar houses in your neighborhood pass by. Cove reached over to turn on the radio. A crackle of static mixed up with the odd snippets of song filled the car as he flipped through the stations. Mr. Horton's car was in good condition, but it was, well, older. There was no way to plug in a phone, play music, so the radio had to do. Eventually he settled on a classic rock station, before sitting back and resting both hands on the wheel. Is this okay? Yes, you know what I like. How could I forget? He smiled with the happy answer. Time flew by, and with the scenery outside your window, it became more and more unfamiliar. Neither of you spoke for a good long while, but the silence was comfortable. You had become all too used to each other's company over the years. Eventually, Cove broke the silence, clearing his throat softly before he spoke. It's been too long since you and I spent time with my mom. I know she still comes to the neighborhood sometimes, but that's not even once a year. I'm always going to hers. I'm happy the two of us are doing this. Yeah, me too. But speaking of your mom and trips, remember that time she took us on the crazy drive all around in town? He shook his head at the memory, his laughter clear and bright. I remember. I kept worrying about those papers and shoes while you were having a blast. It was an amazing night. He smiled quietly to himself, clutching the wheel a little more confidently. With the crinkling of his brows, a look of nostalgia crossed over Cove's features. Mom always knew how to make things memorable. I can't deny that. Silence crept back into the space, both of you thinking about the night and all the memories you had of it. Your elbow was resting on the windowsill. You gazed out at the world that was slowly coming to life as the morning rolled on by. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Luckily, the sunbeams weren't going right into your eyes. Hey, you mind reaching back for me? Cove gave you a sidelong glance as he drove, indicating with a nod of his head and a tiny smile. I want some chips, the salt and vinegar ones. I don't know how you can eat that. He kept impatiently, keeping his eyes on the road. I like them and want to eat them. You shouldn't have a problem with letting me, since you don't even like it. Stretching out your seatbelt to give yourself space, you twisted it in your spot and reached into the bag holding the snacks. It took a bit of effort to sort through the collection of goodies stuffed inside, but eventually the bag of tricks? The bag of crisps crinkled beneath your fingers as you pulled them out and sat back in your seat. Yeah. Thanks, do you mind opening it? His eyes lit up at the prospects of the snacks, and you shook your head in amusement, popping the top of the bag. Want me to feed them to you? He chuckled, giving a playful roll of his eyes.
No way.
I don't think I want to risk crushing it, because your hand is in front of my face. Can you just pour a few into my hand? Yeah, sure. Thanks. Cove held out one outstretched hand. You did your best to have the chips fall into his palm, but some did end up on the floor. After that, you rolled up the top of the bag and stowed the chips safely in the bag again. When you turned to the front, it was to find Cove crushing the fistful of chips into his mouth, crunching loudly. He wiped his hands on his pants absentmindedly before gripping the wheel, spilling crumbs all over the place. Like a little kid, he snorted, and pulled a hand from the wheel once more, to flick the salty residue from his fingers at you. With a gasp, you raised your arm to defend yourself. You shook your head at the mess of crumbs that fell from his mouth as he chuckled. See what I mean? The hours drifted by much the same way as that, with the two of you snacking and chatting as the day stretched on. It was fairly calm and quiet, traveling along the open road, and you found a little way in. It It was fairly calm and quiet, traveling along the open road, and you found little in the way of interruptions. At one point, you passed a "Welcome to Nevada" sign, and Cove gave a tiny cheer. He was in disbelief that the two of you were seriously all the way in another state like this. Eventually, you had to stop for gas and made a small detour at a diner to grab a proper meal that didn't consist of chips and candy. After refueling both the car and your stomachs, the drive was back on, just as the sun began dipping beneath the horizon and bathing in the sky in a wash of orange light. Cove informed you there wasn't much longer to go. You were almost there. You took shifts driving throughout the trip. The route was fairly straightforward, and you had enough practice with driving to feel comfortable doing so. When night eventually fell in the blanket of darkness, the drive finally came to an end. Cove pulled into the parking lot of Kyra's apartment building, the glow of the car's lights disappearing as he turned off the engine, and let out a heavy sigh. We made it! We're here! The two of you exchanged tired smiles, having successfully and safely completed one half of the trip. You were relieved to actually have arrived, and eager to get out of the car and stretch your legs. You took the stairs up to the building together. After a knock, you were abruptly met with a flash of green hair as Kyra opened the door and immediately took her son in her arms.
Cove!
There he is, my gigantic baby boy! She squeezed him for a moment, then pulled back so she could examine his face. Are you even taller than the last time I saw you? Cove gave her a fun smile as she patted the tops of his shoulders proudly. You say that every time I'm here. It doesn't make sense right now. My last visit wasn't that long. Kyra laughed before letting him go fully and ushering the two of you into her apartment. Then she turned to you, a wide grin pulling at her lips. Callie! It's so nice you came along with. And as a bonus, you've both arrived in one piece. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a long time. Kyra beamed at both of you, and while you would have loved nothing more than to settle down and rest after the drive, you could see she wasn't going to let you go that easily. So, how's the trip? I admit I was just a pinch worried. I appreciate your concern, but it was alright. We made it without a scratch. Kyra clapped her hands together, the bracelets around her wrists jingling. I'm so proud. I can hardly believe how mature you both are. Where did all those smarts come from? Cove ran a hand over his hair with an awkward chuckle. I don't know. Maybe I got some from my parents. His mom looked up at him deeply, her eyes glistening as she shook the sentimentality off with the wave of her hand.
Any whoosies?
You have to be half asleep already, huh? I don't want to keep you up too much longer. Early morning and any whoosies. How do you want to deal with the sleeping arrangements? I've only got my room and Cove's, though the living room couch isn't bad. You keep your bed, Mom. Callie can use mine and I'll sleep on the couch or the floor. Whatever's easiest. It doesn't matter for one night. Thank you for letting me have the bed. Come up with a smile.
Don't worry about it.
No problem. So, would you be okay with me sleeping on the floor in the room? I'd rather be there than out in the open in the living room, even if there is the couch. Yeah, you can sleep there. Actually, wait. I'll take the floor. Cove shook his head, dismissing the idea immediately.
No.
Another gas. I don't want to take your bed. Well, I still don't want to take it from you, and I said it first. The two of you narrowed your eyes at each other stubbornly. Kyra took that as her cue to step in. My house, my rules then. And you know who I have to decide with. I'd like you to take the bed, Callie. You hesitated a moment, but it seemed you had to accept the hospitality. With a small sigh, you gave in. Alright. Cool. So, would you be okay with me sleeping on the floor in the room? I'd rather be there than out in the open in the living room, even if there is the couch. Yeah, you can sleep there. Kyra giggled softly, drawing your attention back to her. I'm not sure in good conscience I can allow the two of you to stay in the same room together. You'll stay up all night having fun, then you'll have to make the trip back in no rest. Come on! We don't want kids having to sleep over. We're responsible adults. Right, Callie? Well, I am. Cove, though. Hey! You chuckled quietly to yourself as Cove gave you a disapproving look. I'll leave it as that then. For now. Just remember the walls are thin in this apartment. If you can't settle down and sleep, I might have to separate you. I'll be good.
Marvelous.
Perfect. Kyra clasped her hands together, her bracelets softly tinkling together. It's only getting later, so I'll let you prepare for bed. She nodded towards the hallway and gave you a small smile. I'll play hostess for a sec and show you where the bathroom is first, Callie, and then where you'll be staying for the night. Thank you. You hoisted your towel bag over your shoulder and followed behind Kyra down the hallway. Kyra shuffled along behind you, disappearing into the bedroom, while his mom had you go to the restroom. The apartment was small but nicely decorated in soft, cool colors, with plenty of artwork hanging on the walls. It gave it character. It was stylish and exactly how you had expected from someone like Kyra. After being shown the bathroom and wishing Kyra good night, you headed to the room and found Cove already there. He had changed into his sleepwear for the night as well. I'm covering the dirty laundry, which is hilarious. But this is a really cool room. Looking around, you found the bedroom to look much the same as the rest of the apartment, but with small ocean elements. You're sure Cove must have enjoyed that when he stayed there. All in all, the room was pretty clean, though it almost looked more like a hotel room than a guest room. Oh, shit. Down. Though it almost looked more like a hotel guest room than a bedroom. I've only spent a few weeks of the year there, so it made sense it wasn't especially lived in.
So?
What do you think? It's pretty nice, huh? Mom always keeps it clean and everything, even when I'm not here. It seriously looks like a hotel room. A really good hotel room. Cove huffed and turned away. He was being defensive over your teasing. When you went back to the room, you jumped in bed and under the covers, just as Cove was shuffling into his sleeping bag on the floor. You waited until he was settled in before you flipped off the lights, and then a soft glow from outside peeked through the blinds, casting shadows over the floor. You closed your eyes, blocking everything out.
Night.
Night, Callie. Night, Cove. Sleep well. The room grew quiet as the two of you wound down for the night, and you found yourself listening to the sounds of the city outside the window. The noise there was so different to what you were used to back home. Clouds zooming past and people out having fun, instead of crashing waves and the ocean winds, cocooning your house in their embrace. This feels familiar, don't you think? We've been having sleepovers for years. Cove mumbled quietly and rustled in his bedding, turning to face towards your location.
Right?
Right? It feels like I've had this view so many times, looking up over at you tucked in bed. He trailed off a little, and you assumed he was drifting off to sleep, too tired to continue the conversation. But then, as if a switch had been hit, he sprang up, battling you as he shot upright in his sleeping bag. Wait a minute! Why am I always on the floor? What? You raised your eyebrows at him through the dark. The times I've slept over your house, you got to stay in your bed. It was your bed after all. But when it was my family hosting things, Dad always made sure you got a bed there. The words spilled out of him faster and faster, the pitch of his voice rising as the revelation spiraled. He had said that you were the guest, so it was only right. No matter what, I've always been the one to take the floor every time. This is a racket! You burst out laughing. How am I finally hitting you now? Don't ask me questions, my life is crumbling. I can't believe it. It's been going on for 10 years. He stopped suddenly, and you could see through the limited light that his eyebrows were angled in disbelief. His round wobbly in shock. That's how it is in my family. My moms have always thought it was more fun and comfortable for the guests to use their own sleeping things, rather than a stranger's bed. And in my family, the guest gets the bed, because it's good to make sure your guest has a proper place to sleep. We are opposites all along, but I never even thought about it. When it looked like the situation was going to stall there, Cove sighed. Suddenly, his shoulders slammed in a sleeping Adele defeat.
It's okay.
Forget it. It's too late to take back all those nights on the floor. At least I can think of myself as being really considerate. He sounded resigned to his fate, but despite looking on the bright side, he was still pouting. You went over to cheer him up. Sitting out of bed, you kneeled down on the floor beside him, though he was probably turned away from you and continued moping. You wrapped your arms around him. Thinking of nothing else to do, you leaned in and snuggled him into a hug, earning a grumble in response. However, you didn't miss the blush that spread across his cheeks and staining his face. I really do appreciate what you did for me. He made a sound of acknowledgement, and you took that as a good sign. With a slight smile, he gave you a playful nudge to go back to bed, which, with a small sense of satisfaction, you did. With a tired sigh, he flopped back down. I can make do with the floor, for all time's sake. Some real humor came back into his tone. It's basically tradition by now. Why don't we share? It's big enough. He made a thoughtful noise, as though he was considering it. It wouldn't be as comfortable as the two of you in bed, but you wanted to offer anyway. No, it's alright. Thank you for offering, though. That was nice.
Don't worry about it.
You're already doing me a big favor by coming here in the first place. Just let me do this one thing, and give you the bed. That's what I want for this trip, okay? Pressing your lips tight, you gave a small nod, amid defeat. Alright, I'll help the bed. Thanks, Cove. He made a small noise, but said no more. With an accepting sigh, you pulled up the covers under your chin and got comfortable. The next day dawned, bringing with it the sounds of birds chirping happily outside the window. You opened your eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the light as you tried to recall where you were, and remembering the unfamiliar sight of Cove's second bedroom. You had woken up on your own. The early morning sun filtered through the blinds, telling you it was about time to get out of bed and get ready for the day. The sound of Cove shuffling around the room drawing your attention, though. You weren't surprised. He had always been a morning person. Sitting up in bed, you let out a yawn and stretched your arms above your head. You still felt pretty groggy. You were used to sleeping in longer than this, and the late night hadn't helped. Morning. The two of you were completely different wavelengths right now. You pulled yourself out of bed and grabbing a fresh change of clothes and your toiletries before heading to the bathroom. After that, you met Cove back in his room. He was sitting on the floor when you entered, sorting through a bunch of stuff in a box, determining what to bring and what to leave behind. Hey.
Hey.
Hey! Can you pull the stuff out of those drawers? You nodded, though he hadn't even looked up from his task, so you knew he wouldn't have seen. Heading over to his drawers, you started the task of taking out various items and setting them on the ground in front of Cove. Hey! Look at this! When you turned towards the sound of Cove's voice, you found him digging through one of the drawers underneath the bed.
Neat.
That's something I definitely need to bring. Neat! Turning your head, you got a glimpse of what he was holding. An old yellowing book. When he opened it, there were dried, pressed flowers between pages. Those had been gifts you had given him for his mom's place. Something for him to remember you by, and to make his time here less lonely. He kept them the whole time. It's adorable that you care for them so much. He sighed, glancing between you and the items in his hands. They bring back some good memories.
It's nice.
These are special. It was important to have a piece of you with me whenever we were apart. I feel the same way. That's why I gave them to you. Poe smiled. Pleased the feeling was mutual. Then the expression became more amused. And did you keep the souvenirs I brought back? Of course. His grin grew to completion. Thanks. Another hour passed by in silence, and you were happy to see you were making great progress with Ko's room. With only the closet left to sort through. You took a minute to take a mouthful of water from your bottle, and perched on the edge of the bed, feeling productive. Ko glanced over at you and paused, putting down the tape gun he had been using to seal up his boxes. He raised an eyebrow. You know, it's really strange to see you sitting in this room. Why? He frowned a little, his eyes distant, and his voice quiet when he spoke next.
That's...
During the visits to Mom's, when I was sitting alone in this room, I'd sometimes think about how you weren't here. It was a weird feeling at the time that you weren't around, and now that you're here, in this place, I don't know how to explain the feeling. He shrugged it off, and smiled a little, as though he had said enough already and didn't want to risk sounding silly. Life's pretty confusing, is all. I missed you so much when you were gone. His brows crinkled as he looked at you sullenly, his eyes bright with emotion. I missed you too, all the time. It made you feel better to know that when you were stuck at home missing his company, that he was missing yours too. He walked away satisfied, heading over to the closet and laid the last of the items to be sorted. Before long, every box, closet, and drawer had been thoroughly combed through, with items either neatly packed up into boxes or organized and returned to their proper places. With a sigh of relief, you glanced around the bedroom and the work you had done together.
Alright.
We're done. Good job to us. I'm gonna change out my PJs for the drive. Yeah. When the two of you headed out into the living room, ready to get everything finalized and hit the road, you found Kyra in the kitchen pouring a cup of tea. You headed towards her, casually leaning against the counter that divided the two spaces. Hey, you didn't have to get up so early.
Come on.
Are you crazy? Of course I had to see you off before you go. You can't just sneak away while I'm out cold. She leaned at him in all honesty, seemed more than happy to be up and ready for the day. Do you want some breakfast? I've got some muesli or toast and eggs. Oh, and some of that fruity cereal you used to love. It's okay. We should really eat on the road. Kyra smiled sadly, a little disappointed. But she seemed to understand that your time was running thin. I thought you might say that. In that case, I packed you some snacks for the road.
What do you think?
Even if you don't end up eating them, take it anyway, just in case. You can always feed them to Cliff when you get home. And tell him I said hi. Cliff laughed and shook his head, knowing his dad would love nothing more than to polish off whatever food Kyra had fed for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. You really didn't have to. It must be a mom thing to know It must be a mom thing to know stuff like that. Kyra smiled before resting her gaze on Cove fondly. One of the many advantages of being a parent. She returned your smile with one of her own before putting her cup of tea aside. Well, I'll help you get the car packed.
Sure.
Sure. Thanks. The three of you got a move on, taking the boxes from Cove's bedroom and heading down to fill the backseat of the car, until there was barely an inch of space left in the back of the trunk. With all of you helping, it only took a couple of trips to move everything, and you were done before you knew it. Then it was truly time to say goodbye. You covened back inside the apartment where Kyra looked over the two of you with a quiet smile. It was great seeing you both. Thank you for coming. She gave each of you a hug, and you felt a little sad that you hadn't been able to spend more time with her. It was good to see you too, Mom. Cove embraced her in return, the two of them holding onto each other for a few seconds longer. I'll miss you, but I'll visit again soon.
Of course.
You better. Hey, we should make plans for you to visit us soon. Us too. I'll let you know when it's settled. I'll love that. Kyra bundled all the stuff she had prepared into a bag and handed them over to you. You took a quick peek at what she had packed. There are fruits, nuts, seeds, hard-boiled eggs, and some veggie sticks.
Cool.
Oh, good to see that we've got some fresh food options now. The snacks I rolled bland. Kyra shook her head at him and let out a soft laugh, as though she wouldn't have expected anything else. I seriously hope you're feeling yourself better than at home. Yeah, of course. Just not on trips. I can live with that, then. She looked over at him, fondly, her eyes lasting on his face and filling with emotion. I'm gonna miss you, baby.
Me too.
Me too. We'll all be together again before you know it. I hope so. Kyra put an arm around you both, pulling you tight to her side for one final squeeze.
Bye.
Have a safe trip. We will. With a last goodbye, you exited the apartment, though Cove hesitated in the door, his expression distant. You weren't sure what he was doing, though you tentatively took a step towards him. Everything okay? Your voice seemed to bring him back to earth, and he shook his head to clear his thoughts, his green hair swaying from side to side.
Come on.
Yeah, let's go. With that, the two of you headed down to the car, ready to make the long trip home. Soon enough, you were on the wide, open road, with a car full of Cove's things, and only one destination: Sunset Bird, California. The drive went as smoothly as could be expected, with the morning slowly creeping into midday as the miles flew by. After a while, you switched places with Cove and took over driving for a few hours. The day flew by with a while of open road and sunshine. Before you knew it, it was early afternoon. By that point, you had already crossed the state line. Cove announced that he had planned a little stop on the way home. He was quite pleased with himself as you arrived at the precipice, the Redwood National Park. Shaded beneath the canopy of enormous redwood trees, you drove along. When Cove parked the car, you pushed the door to get out. The first thing you did was look up. They are some damn great trees. Enormous redwood trees surrounded you on all sides, their massive trunks shooting straight up into the canopy of foliage overhead. There were too many of them to count, stretching on and on as far as you could see. You squinted against the sunlight that was peeking through the leaves, and dancing on the path around you. It's great, isn't it? He smiled at you from over the roof of the car, before glancing around the place fondly. Remember the trip our families took here that one summer? It was cool going on a journey and seeing the forest in person, even if we didn't stay very long.
So...
And I guess you can stay for an even less time, but Oh well. I know you didn't have a super good time then, but I thought you'd be able to enjoy the park now. It just seemed like a good time to stop by, and who knows when we'll get another chance. His voice got a little softer at the end, but it seemed to be bittersweet for him, being in a place he was so fond of, not having the time to appreciate it fully. You're pleased to have stopped there. It was a beautiful place to stretch your legs and take in some of the fresh air. There will be more chances in the future. I promise. Ko smiled, shoving his hands in his pockets and dipping his head. I'm gonna hold you on that. I'm gonna hold you to that. The two of you walked around the park. The two of you walked around for a little while, completely dwarfed by the sheer scale of the redwood. It kind of put your view of yourself and everything in a strange perspective. You took in a lungful of clean forest air, listening to the sounds of birdsong and cool breeze rustling through the underbrush, taking advantage of the space that moved around freely. However, you felt that being there was a totally different scene than in that old car for hours and hours. Being here again, you couldn't help but reminisce of what else had happened during the trip you had taken all that time ago. There are a lot of things that had reminded you of it recently. You look over at Cove, who seemed to be lost in peace of the place, and you wondered if any of it had crossed his mind. Smiling at the sight, you thought back on what had been a highlight of a long-gone vacation. Remember how about stole your dad's lunch? Cove instantly started laughing at the memory of a bird taking off with Mr. Holden's sandwich. I would love to see out of that. It just seems so funny. After all these years, it was still a once-in-a-lifetime sight to see. Poor Dad. He could never catch a break. You continued chatting about the trip a little while longer, about the things you had seen and done and even eaten. A lot of the memories of Cove had of the trip were similar to your own, but you were surprised to hear a few other things from his point of view. So much had happened that there were no shortage of things to talk about. The place sadly had a nostalgic quality about it. Your spirits were light as you ambled past information boards and picnic areas. But before long, you decided it was time to bring this short trip to an end and head back to the car to get on the road again. Cove sighed when you finally reached the vehicle, jangling keys in his hand before unlocking the doors.
Well,
I wish we didn't have to go, but we're going to be responsible and not stay any longer than we should. How grown up of you. He smiled slightly, and with that, the two of you jumped in the car, buckled in, and he put it on drive. You were getting closer and closer to town as the sun started setting, though. It was still far enough away that the radio stations were unfamiliar to you. Cove twisted the dial this way and that before stumbling onto a channel with a song he seemed to like. That was a rare gift from the fates in a sea of static and strange radio jockeys and grating tunes. His face immediately brightened at the sound of it, and he drummed his fingers along the bottom of the steering wheel happily. Sitting back in his seat, he bobbed his head and shimmied his shoulders in time with the tune, all while mouthing along to the words. Occasionally, he even lifted one hand from the steering wheel to gesture with his fingers for a specific line. You sang along. Cove raised an eyebrow, pleased at your vocalization. Emboldened by you, Cove decided to speak the words rather than lip-syncing. Your voice mixed together, slowly creeping louder and louder as you belted out the words of the song. Every now and then, a word would be sung wrong, and by the end you were laughing too much to continue. Sung ended, and Cove reached over to start cycling through the radio stations again. Upon finding nothing tolerable, he flipped the dial off in defeat, and leaned back in his seat with a sigh. You rested your head in your hand and stared out of the window as the sky darkened watching the landscape slowly melt into more familiar views. The miles went on, and the energy you had earlier was beginning to drain away. If you imagined a home and your family, you'd be there together soon. You know, I've spent all of these years living in Sunset Bud and taking a few weeks each summer to visit my mom in that second room. And that's not gonna happen anymore. Not really.
I mean,
I can still see my parents, but the way it all works between us has changed. Forever. He falls, the silence stretching. A serious look settled on his face as his thoughts far away. I'm excited to be on the brink of real adulthood. There are so many experiences we've yet to do. Co's mouth pulled into a tight line, though he gave a small nod. Co stared straight ahead down the long, long road. The path looked like it would never end from where you were, but that weren't true. Eventually, he found a few more words to say.
I'm so glad.
I think it's good that we were able to do this trip without any parents or chaperones. It's just us. We did it all. I don't know. I feel a little more independent now. A little more ready for what's ahead. I felt ready for a while now. It's exciting! The sky outside grew even darker as the hours passed by, the stars blinking on like tiny fireflies painted onto a canvas of blue. The scenery continued transitioning between roads, industrial areas, and beach towns, becoming increasingly recognizable as time went on. You felt somewhat disconnected from the world, as you felt somewhat disconnected from the world around you, as you watched it through your window, your tired mind growing hazy. It was strange, reflective feeling, but peaceful nonetheless. Soon enough the world would return to you, and you would find your feet firmly placed on the ground. It can be helped. The adventure would end, life would continue, but your memories would linger on. You perched at the kitchen island, whiling away the minutes until your sister joined you downstairs. Oopsies. There was an adventure planned today. Lee was coming down near Sunset Bud. Lee was coming down near the Sunset Bud area as part of what she called a little trip. Apparently, she thought it would be nice to go on a private boat trip this summer to celebrate graduation and everything. What might have been an idle dream for most people turned into a reality with Lee's hands. You'd been invited along for the ride by your best cousin. It'd be great to see her. You got to chat over Lee over the phone regularly, but it wasn't the same as hanging out in person. This visit was an unexpected treat. Of course, you weren't the only ones heading out on this trip. Liz was coming, of course. Your moms had been invited, but hadn't been able to find the time to squeeze it in. So, it would only involve the kids of the family, a time that stuck despite the three of you being adults now. Mom would have joked about cramping your lifestyle, but there was apparently plenty of room on the ship. Lee had been more than happy for you and Liz to bring other friends along if you wanted. But the trip out to Sunset Bud, then even farther, to where Lee and the boat would be, just wasn't feasible for most people. Not many folks lived nearby. There was naturally one person who would always be up for the ride. Oh. You were just about to meet up with him outside. Lee had been glad when you told her you'd be able to come along today. Just as you were thinking about your cousin and her plans for the day ahead, your phone sprang to life. Glancing at the display, you saw the incoming call was from Lee herself. You answered it without pause. Hey!
Hi!
Hey! She dove straight into the topic. The trip meetup. You could hear the thrill of excitement in her voice. I'm here now and everything is set. All you gotta do is show up and we'll be off. Woo! She spoke quickly, animated by anticipation. Hooray! You echoed her enthusiasm. Great, can't wait to see you. Liz and Cove are definitely still on board, too, right? Yep. Wonderful. There's still a bit of time before you're due to set off. Is there anyone else you want to extend a last minute invite to? No need to keep the guest list sparse now. It's not like we'll be bumping into anyone else to join while we're out in the middle of the ocean. Oh well, there's this new guy in the neighborhood that I like. Invite him! Kelly, you've got to see if he wants to come. I need to see who your new friend is. Alright, I'll do it. No idea if he'll be free, but I can try.
Talk to you later.
I'll let you go. I have to if I want to see you here in the flesh. She added the last words dramatically, making them sound more like a threat than a statement. Laughing, you shook your head. Lee chuckled along down the phone. Bye, Lee. Bye. Now that your attention was free, you looked over to the stairs to see if Liz had emerged yet, but there was still no sign of her. You figured you might as well go out and see if Cove was ready in the meantime. Besides, you needed to stop by Baxter's place to invite him along. Liz would catch up, you were sure. You called up the stairs to let her know the plan. Liz! I'll be outside! Okay! With that, you hopped off the chair and headed to the door. A sunny day greeted you. Shielding your eyes with a hand, you admired the sky. It looked like good weather for heading out on the water. That was something. You heard your name called and turned automatically. That was the source of the call. He was standing halfway between his house and yours. He waved at you as he walked over. You ran over and threw your arms around him. You tore across the street and pounced on him, wrapping him tightly into a hug. The wind gasped you knocked out of him turned into a chuckle halfway. Hi! Hi, Cole! Ready to go? Cove nodded easily, blinking, languidly in the sunlight. Cove glanced away, chewing his lip with consternation. Is it really okay for me to come? Of course, you don't have to ask, right? Cove nodded Cove rubbed the back of his neck, frowning as if trying to work it out for himself. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, this is really a ritzy trip. And Lee's your cousin. Not mine. I mean, the two of us, me and Lee, are friends, maybe, but it's not like we've ever hung out on our own. I'm kind of worried I'm gonna be out of place. He wants you there. I promise. Okay, you're right. But managed to smile. The worry hadn't lifted from his ridged shoulders, but you could see he was attempting to project a little more confidence. I'm gonna go. Don't worry. Good. You're satisfied with that? I meant to tell you. I'm gonna be inviting Baxter too. I've gotta check if he's in now before we run out of time. Huh? Really? Cove was stunned. He hadn't been prepared for any extra surprises. You check it off, however. Alright. Not as if it's gonna... Alright. It's not like this is already gonna be awkward for me. He was joking. Mostly. I'll wait for you here. Okay, Cove. I'll see you in a bit. You strolled over to the condo Baxter was staying in and rang the doorbell. Hitting the bell, you had recalled the time Liz, dared you to ring it before the... Hitting the button, you recalled the time Liz, dared you once to ring this very bell, and ding-dong ditched the neat old people residing here. She probably hadn't expected you to accept the dare. You laughed out with nostalgic pride, remembering the thrill of adrenaline, and how it fueled your little legs faster than you thought they could go. For all memories could claim you, the door stood open. Baxter looked out, his head tilted in interest.
Nice to see you.
Callie! What a nice surprise! He folded his arms over his chest, leaning casually against the doorframe. Is there something I can do for you? We're taking a boat trip right now. Are you on board? His eyes widened only briefly, before resting back into his usual languorous expression. It was either an impressive show of restraint, or Baxter's life involved around. It was either an impressive show of restraint, or Baxter's life involved more impromptu boat trips than yours. Perhaps both.
I can do that.
I'd love to. So, you did have plans already? That's great. You were surprised, Baxter's mouth curled into a little smirk. My schedule's always open for an improved itinerary. I'm flexible, remember? Oh. He was not only agreeing to come on the trip, but apparently cancelling some other plan in order to make it happen. Baxter was certainly something. Thanks for keeping me in mind. I think this is going to be fun. He stepped outside, after securing the door behind him. He swept down an arm, indicating for you to lead the way. The first stop was to Clark Cove. He was waiting as promised, where you'd left him.
Good afternoon.
Cove. Good to see you. Hi. There was still no sign of Liz. He took the opportunity to bring Baxter up today on the plan for the day. He took in your words of interest. Only a minute or two passed before the door to your house finally opened. Liz framed within it like a portrait. Unlike you, she had no need to shield her eyes with a hand in order to protect them from the sun's bright rays, as her hair was performing the job admirably. Noting you, she headed straight over. She smiled warmly at you and Cove as she approached. Her attention then promptly turned to the group's nearest addition. We meet again, monochrome man. His eyes closed as he bowed his head in a nod, ever so slightly. Always good to see you. Living on the same street had given Liz and Baxter the opportunity to interact over the course of the summer. Though, she mostly knew him from you, though. You anticipated that she wouldn't object to him tagging along the trip. I asked him to come on the boat ride. Of course he did. I feel like you and Lee will become friends fast, Baxter. Baxter smiled politely. With that, your little group piled into the car. It had been decided in advance you would all getting over in Cove's car. Then you set off for the journey down the coast, where you'd be meeting up with Lee. You wound down the California shoreline, with sparkling ocean waters on one side and craggy cliffs on the other. The world blurred by until eventually you made it safely to the large harbor. It was a grander scale than the one nearby Miss Holden's shop. Boats 2, 3, even 5 times larger could fit. Liz took the charge from there, calling up your cousin to guide the rest of the way. Lee did her best to explain precisely where the boat was docked, given that she was doing it without seeing where you were, and that was an area she was only slightly familiar with herself. She did a pretty good job. It only took a bit of fumbling and retracing of steps, as your cousin and sister had different definitions of orange. That was rusty brown, as Liz protested. But before long, you heard her voice calling from you. Not from the phone in Liz's hand, but over the wind rolling of the ocean. Searching for the source of the sound, you found her on the prow of the ship, jumping in the air and waving frantically for your attention. You had arrived. Lee dashed from the bow over to the gangway, where you boarded one by one. Hi, everyone! I'm so glad you got here okay. You could tell she said nothing. You could tell, even if she said nothing. Her bright grin as she saw you all spoke loud and clear. Kylie! You gave her a full-on hug. You wrapped both arms around her and pulled her tight against your chest. Squealing, Lee returned the hug just as tightly. After greeting you, Lee took a look over the faces of those who would be joining you on your ocean voyage. Her attention was immediately pulled to the only one in the group you'd not met before. Grinning, she approached him.
My pleasure.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm so excited to meet the mysterious new man on the blog. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. I was looking forward to meeting our gracious host for the day.
To be honest.
But I must confess, I'm not that mysterious. I'm rather open. I do hope that doesn't come to a disappointment. Not at all. I can appreciate forwardness. Welcome aboard. With that, she glanced over at the others.
Thank you.
Lee, thanks again for taking us on this lovely trip. Pep hollered awkwardly from behind you and your sister. Even with Liz's broad sun hat, he was too tall, and the group was too small to hide effectively. He made fleeting eye contact with Lee, then looked away. Hi, thank you for letting me come. The boat's cool. He chuckled nervously. Lee smiled, pained by his bumbling phrasing. I go! She giggled as she spoke, unable to hide her true amusement. Poe lowered his head. He patted his arm reassuringly. Poe's little game of hide and seek is pretty funny. Poe weakly smiled at you, his face flushed. You could tell that he appreciated your show of support, but was still embarrassed about needing the help. The floor seemed to give beneath you, as Lee whooped in delight. You realized that the ship had pulled out into water. It had been so steady while it was moored that you temporarily forgotten you weren't on solid ground. Now as the boat rocked beneath your feet, there was no doubt you were truly setting sail. The little group dissipated into chatter or headed over to the railings towards the ocean. You were ruffled by the breeze, which seemed stronger out in the water than it was back on the shore. The floor continued to rise and fall, reminding you of standing in the bouncy house while others jumped. It was refreshing. As you let your surroundings truly sink in, you thought today was shaping up to be memorable. You're glad that you've been able to join Lee on this trip. We can really get the party started now. Oh, wonderful. What did you have in mind? Well, the word hung in the air as your cousin stalled. It was clear that she didn't have something immediately in mind. Poe's eyes sparkled as he piped up. Can we get out of the boat, like go swimming in the deep ocean? Sometimes you swear the boy was part merman. The way he was continuously drawn to the water. But Liz immediately quashed the suggestion. No. Her tone left no room for debate. Baxter chuckled, combing a hand through his hair. I prefer to stay on board too.
Sorry.
It's not that kind of boat trip. It isn't supposed to stop anywhere. If someone did end up in the water, the captain would call the Coast Guard over. Poe's shoulders slumped at the resounding rejection. Alright. Let's just find something fun to do, Kyra. Truthfully, there isn't much we can do on the boat that we can technically do back on land. I often take trips with my father on our boat. He always spends time deep sea fishing. I'm not much of a fisherman personally. Activities like that could also be done while not on a boat. Sounds excellent to me. Visibly bolstered by Brax's support, Lee smiled at him warmly. Huh, my dad also takes me fishing sometimes, though we do it on the dock by my dad's shop. I'm not good at it either. Baxter snickered, his expression warm as he looked at Cove. He appreciated the delicate attempt to relate, especially with how standoffish Cove normally was with him. That's the fate of sons with their dads, apparently. How lucky we won't be doing that now. Yeah. Liz nodded. There's nothing wrong with some non-nautical themed activities. We could play a party game for all I care. Yeah, we'll do a party game! You saw her brow furrowed, just for a moment, as she mentally conjured the possibilities and smoothed out as one came to mind. Oh, what about the one where something's written down and people give clues and one person has to guess what it is? Sure, I said I'll play a party game and I stand by it. Who's guessing first? How about rock, paper, scissors to decide? Others blinked at you as you made your suggestion. Liz's expression was skeptical. And how would we decide who took turns for that? The game that is supposed to decide who's taking turns in a game we originally decided to play. Lee snickered, batting a hand in the air to brush away these minor details.
Trust me.
Don't be like that. We'll make it work. It's a good idea. More games equal more fun. Together you agreed on an order for this to go in sets of games. The first mini competition was on, with Lee and Liz facing each other in the first round. Liz was triumphant in the first game. The next challenger was Baxter. He and Liz went up against each other, and Baxter emerged victorious. Now he was waiting to see who would be going up against in the next round. Meanwhile, you were gearing up for a round against Cove. The winner would be Baxter's opponent. Cove stared at you with narrowed eyes. The minigame might only be a bit of meaningless fun, but Cove meant business. You took your positions, facing each other as others watched on. You raised a hand curled into a fist, just as Cove did the same. On 3! Cove frowned, focusing intently on your hands, as if you might predict what shape it would make. 1, 2, 3! You picked scissors. On the call of 3, Cove's pointer and middle finger sprung free of his fist. He had chosen scissors. The hands between you were mirrored in the same gesture. Again. As the countdown began, you put your faith in paper. At the call of 3, Cove turned his hands over, fanning out his fingers. He had gone for paper. The hands between the two of you were mirrored in the same gesture. Again. The countdown began again, and you put your faith in scissors. At the call of 3, Cove turned his hand over, fanning out his fingers. He'd gone for paper. Kelly wins! Cove summed his shoulders, accepting defeat. You had gone the better of him that day. His spouting session ended abruptly with a shake of his head, as he refocused on what was ahead. Cove stole a glance of the monochrome newcomer. Then, when he met your eyes with complete seriousness, you can beat him! You laughed. Cove was so invested, and it was hilarious. Baxter watched your exchange of Cove and waited until an appropriate moment to approach you. His smile curled. Good luck. I don't need luck. His smile grew wider as you both raised your hands for the final game, and the countdown began and you threw down rock. Look! Look at those rings! So interesting that he has 2 rings on one finger. One's at, like, the tip, I guess? And the others are closer to his knuckle. I want to get something kind of like Baxter's. I think that would be cool. But so did Baxter. After some surprise, the group saw down try the round again. There was another countdown end. So fun fact, if you guys don't already know, Baxter only does rock. Which is why I said I don't need rock. And if you do rock continuously, it just never ends. At least it hasn't ended so far when I've done it, so Yeah, it's just forever rock, paper, scissors, throwing down rock. You brought out paper. And I covered Baxter's rock. Gotcha. It was over. And victory was yours. Nice game, everyone! You suddenly shrugged it off. It was literally only a quick game to decide the order for a different game. Lee shot you an impressed thumbs up as Liz chuckled. I am so proud of you! Baxter applauded politely.
Not bad.
Bravo, Callie. You did good! Hey, you know, you've always been so good at these kinds of games. You said proudly, remembering your past victories over the years. With a devious grin, Lee picked up a pen and notepad from the bar counter. She twirled the glittery pen with her fingers. Lee clarified the rules after Cove raised a wavy eyebrow. Random words would be written down and folded to give to another player. When it was someone else's turn to be the guesser, they would show everyone else the word, but couldn't look at it themselves. The other players had to help the guesser figure out what the word was without saying it directly. Each person was allowed to say only one clue. After all the hints were given, then the guesser would have to decide. Lee gave each guest the mini party a piece of paper from her notepad. It was surprisingly thick-lined paper, with little starfish printed out at the bottom. She didn't scrounge around She scrounged around to find more writing implements. She managed to dig up a short pencil with an old jelly grip on it, a ballpoint pen with a logo you didn't recognize, and a purple crayon. Baxter had a nice pen with him already, so he respectfully passed on Lee's offer. She turned to you.
Okay.
Yeah, pick one. Can I have the purple crayon? Of course. You pulled the crayon from the found assortment of options Lee had presented to you. The crayon was a lot thicker than what you were used to. It smelled like a kindergarten with a hint of those restaurants that give crayons with their kids' menus. After the random selection of words were determined, and the papers were passed around, it was time to start.
Alright.
I guess we know who's going now. You unfolded the paper given to you, careful not to peek while you showed everyone else. Liz leaned in with a thoughtful hum. As soon as Lee had a chance to read the word, she jumped up. Dog! There's a popular type of dogs sometimes called that. It's where scientists do experiments and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a secret location. Liz gave Cove an edged look. She probably thought it would confuse you. It can be used for photos as well.
Good.
That's it! You got it! Yeah, you nailed it! Everyone cheered. Liz gave you a round of applause. You looked at the paper and in neat tiny writing you saw the word lab printed. You shrugged. Lab had seemed pretty obvious. There weren't many dog breeds named that were also a place for experimenting. I tried to picture some scientists announcing they needed to go down to their poodle to do science. It didn't work. We should definitely keep this ball rolling. Baxter fished his pocket out of his roped pants. Baxter fished his paper from his roped pants pocket and presented it to the group. Loopy handwriting spelled out the word slide. Oh, kids like it. It's for kids. Kids. Lee bounced enthusiastically, holding out a hand to indicate the short height of children. Baxter nodded slowly.
Alright.
It's at playgrounds, but not really a small one, usually. The playground around our neighborhood doesn't have it if you've been there. He shook his head, still perplexed. Unfortunately, I have not. Dang. You've been to playgrounds before though, right? Baxter had to pause to think on it. He shrugged.
Maybe?
In my elementary school, I did have recess, but we had a sports field more than traditional playgrounds. For some reason, it's hard to picture you as a little kid. Well, I'd rather you not imagine that, so it all works out. Fortunately, we've seen him as a little kid, from the demo. Cole placed a finger on his cheeks as he puzzled out the game's conundrum. He tapped his face absentmindedly. It's slippery? You can't really walk on it?
Huh?
Slippery? Every clue lost Baxter even more. He had no idea what the word could be. Baxter, do you know how to do the cha-cha slide? Oh, slide? That's it, slide! Baxter's floundering confidence returned in full force with a broad grin.
Excellent.
I got it? He flipped the paper over and traced his fingers across the word and smiled at it. Thank you very much for the tip, Callie. Let's pat you on the arm with approval. Nice one. You had the magic approach that time. Kurt flipped open his paper and showed it to the crowd. He kept a hand at the back of the note so he couldn't see the word, even if the light shone through it. In blocky wobbly text, you read the word potatoes. You passed your lips together as you thought of what you could say. Zach! Liz turned her head with an incredulous expression while they continued her thought. She jumped up and pointed right at the paper Cove had in his hand. You put them in a sack! Cove blinked at Lee, deeply confused. Lee smiled back, full of confidence that he would come to understand eventually. It's the major vegetable you use in croquettes. I don't even know what that is.
Really?
Really? Wait, what? Oh.
Really?
Oh, he sounds very displeased at that. Really? Baxter was honestly taken aback, as if Cove just said he never had toast before. Maybe we should change that. There has to be somewhere in this town that serves them, right? Liz cleared her throat, saving Cove from having to respond beyond his frown. It's that Mr. Toy with different faces and things. Cove out his head, utterly baffled at the different directions that everyone had taken.
What?
What's a Mr. Toy? Liz simply shook her head at his lack of understanding. It was your turn to try. Cove, forget the croquettes! French fries! You gave him a look, sending the answer right to him, while filling in the blank Baxter had left. Potatoes! Or a single potato?
Yeah!
You're right! Yeah! Cove repeated it again with a bright, beaming grin. Potatoes! He held his hand out to you for a celebratory high five. You smacked his hand back. You slapped his hand with a satisfying smack. He nodded, still looking ecstatic. Thanks for the hint. I don't know if I would have gone without that. You're welcome. Congrats! Now let's go again. Suddenly the boat tipped forward before rocking back harshly. The ship must have gone over a bigger than usual wave. Liz held on to her hat desperately. Lee laughed at her immediately death grip. You never know what'll happen on high seas. Watch out, Liz. You wouldn't want to lose such a nice topper. You and Lee chuckled together while Liz stuck up her nose. However, your sister was now smiling. Her hold had slackened. Oh my god. Why are people messaging? Back off. The game continued with Liz and Lee taking their turns. It was such a good time, you decided to play a few more games. Ah, so we never got to find out what Lee and Liz's words were. Liz turned out to be the best guesser, although it could have been because you were well enough to give her relevant hints. Lee had to stop herself from answering on the first clue she was given, but no one really minded. All in all, everyone was glad that Lee suggested the game. Oh! Please show you a grin. Why don't we have some drinks? There's a bar on the ship. Cove nodded his head in disbelief. He continued billifully.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff behind the counter. I bet one can make whatever they can think of. That sounds like an interesting challenge. There's lots of different juices and stuff. I think I've even seen strawberry puree and pineapple. Carrot juice sounds intriguing. It's a juice bar? Yeah. Liz laughed and tapped Lee on the shoulder. You just said bar, Lee. I think you gave the wrong idea. Oops, sorry for the disappointment, Cove. No alcohol is provided on the ship. It's probably required, considering the group they've got today. I'm not disappointed by that. I didn't want to get drunk on a ship. I'm a little disappointed. Lee breezed past that misunderstanding, as though it hadn't even happened. I was thinking we can mix them up and get something special. Anyone interested? Cove thought about it, intrigued. Liz smirked, recognizing the potential for chaos. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. It'll be a dream, trust me. So, who wants to make drinks? What? It was your idea. Why don't you do it? I've mixed drinks before. If anyone else wants to give it a try, this would be a great chance. I'm a gracious host. I want to make drinks! Cool! You're gonna create something wonderful. I just know it. Yeah, I want to do mixology, so... I should start doing that with, like, fruit drinks. That makes so much more sense. You wondered if you ought to ask for requests, but Lee hustled you off to the non-alcoholic bar. No one else followed. Lee gave a brief tour of selections and the various compartments before went back to the tables. She yelled a final message over her shoulder. Make sure there's enough for everyone! She waved, then you were left alone with the juice. The fridge was packed with cans and various glass bottles of juice. Lee had placed a pitcher on the counter for you to mix things into. You stared at the options, trying to see what you had to work with. There were a lot of choices. You reached into the fridge to take out some juice. You grabbed coconut water, pomegranate juice, pineapple, mango, and cranberry. And that's all. With your juice done, you set out some glasses and poured out some for everyone. Hey! It's done! Everyone got up from the lounge chairs they had been sitting on and came to fetch their drinks. Everyone picked up a glass and took a sip. Liz squinted as she took a large swig of the juice. She smiled. That's kind of odd, but weirdly in a good way.
Right?
I agree. It's some nice work. Yeah. He nodded as he took another slow sip.
Bravo.
It's refreshing. The little juice experience was a good time, as far as you were concerned. Contently, you all stood close together, some still holding their juice cups. Lee's eyes scanned the group as she giggled.
Right?
It's so much nicer than having to rely on regular phone calls to catch up, right? Before anyone could respond, Lee's eyes widened. The corner of your mouth pulled into an amused smile. Not that I don't enjoy our chats from afar. It's just more actually fun to actually be here together.
That's fine.
We understand. And yeah, this is a fantastic little party. Happy graduation, Lee, Callie, and Cove. That was followed by more cheers in celebration of your high school careers coming to an end. Lee even lifted her glass to toast it. When it settled down, your older sister had one more comment to add. And no one has to fight over who gets to use the home phone. Lee threw her head back in thunderous laughter. The smile widened on your face. I remember all that. All the times Elizabeth here was trying to push me into being less Gabby. She needed me to stop so she could call her other friends instead. Hey! Many teens have a too cool for family phase.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Luckily, it's A-okay. I forgive Liz for being a teenager. That got a hearty laugh out of Liz. You caught a quiet snicker from Cove too. At least Callie kept me up to date on what was happening in Sunset Bud those difficult days. I never knew what wild thing you were going to fill me on next. I couldn't wait to tell you all what was happening. It was truly something that you looked forward to every time it came up. It definitely is always fun to stay in the neighborhood loop. Then, Lee drank the rest of her juice down to the very last drop. She made her way over to the table beside Cove and set her cup down. Naturally. Cove watched Lee as he pulled his mouth into a lopsided smile. Making these juice contractions reminds me a lot of that smoothie business down at the mall. The one that let you picked all the fruit that goes into it. That was a good place. Yeah, it was the best. And exactly what I was channeling up when I came up with this idea. I'm glad you caught on finally. Sorry. I can take a while to get things. You all know that. Too true. That's an understatement. You got your hands and Lee snorted. Kyra looked at you looking betrayed. So, Cove. He leaned towards him with a devilish grin. You still have that wind chime Kelly totally got for you? Cove brushed off her teasing and gave herself a self-satisfied look, already knowing the answer. You could feel the tips of your ears redden.
Of course.
Of course I do. The moment broke down with Liz's quiet laugh. That was all it took to get Lee laughing. And as soon as you were all soaked up in the mirth of the moment, too.
Well?
Though, all that aside, we shouldn't leave Baxter out the loop either. Everyone followed her lead and turned to the guest of the summer. His expression softened as he shrugged one shoulder.
I get it.
Well, it's true I wasn't here for these stories. I do enjoy hearing about them. It's nice to only listen sometimes. Cool. Real mature. Thank you. His gaze traveled from Lee to Liz, then over to you. He sighed. My cousins aren't as close in age as you are, and as an only child, I'm curious what that kind of relationship is like. Oh, I'm with you there. Only child solidarity. Lee nodded firmly to Baxter, then Cove a serious look. He crossed his arms. Right. Only child solidarity. A genuine smile lit up Baxter's face. Lee clapped her hands together, pleased at the united front created. Sharing the same wavelength, you and Liz turned your faces to give one another a look, not breaking eye contact. She reached over and put a hand on top of your head.
Thanks.
That's wonderful for you three. I'll keep Callie. Thanks! Your siblings shattered into laughter. The others joined in as well. The hours were spent chatting away, sharing stories and favorite memories as the boat drifted out to sea. As time slipped by, the sun hanging low in the sky signaled that it was time to sail back to the harbor. The more boisterous atmosphere from earlier had settled into a blanket of comfortable relaxation. Lee and Liz were absorbed in conversation, lounging around on the deck couch. Baxter sat across from them, nodding along every now and then. And then you could hear laughter coming from the three of them. There were also smiles. Taking a deep breath of sea air, you sighed contentedly. Cove stood by your side in the center of the deck. When you were ready, you looked back to the deck and the faces of everyone you spent the afternoon with. You never wanted to forget that view. Then, looking out to the wide open ocean, you committed every bit of the moment to memory. You thought quietly to yourself, today had certainly been an adventure. But that's all we have for this video. I will be seeing you guys in the next one. We'll be doing talks and late shift. Or we'll be doing errands and late shift. You'll have to stay tuned to find out what's next. And remember, reflection is the last one we will be doing in step 3. Bye for now!